It's still been a painful experience for Ding Liren. Will he be aggressive with the white pieces? We'll see. All right, there in your lower left corner, we've got the matchup that everyone has been talking about ever since Praggnanandhaa got his first classical victory all the way back in round 3 against Magnus Carlsen. Now he has the black pieces, and Magnus may be out for a little bit of revenge today, Anna.
I think so. I think the world #1 wants to prove always against the prodigies that he is here to rule the world and rule them all. But now that he already lost to Pragg in this event, I think the motivation is multiplied.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's always fascinating, these revenge storylines. It's like, how much risk does Magnus take to try and kind of restore his own pride? We see the handshakes there. Magnus, he's at the top of the tables, but so many players now breathing down his neck. That is going to be a fascinating game to watch. He was quite pragmatic in his encounters against Pragg at the World Cup when he was already ahead there, but we'll wait and see. Yeah, I have a good feeling about today somehow. Just before the rest day, it always feels like the players give everything because they know they get that chance to recover tomorrow. So I'm hoping for more drama on the board.
It's funny because we talked about the games before the last rest day and saying that no one wanted to enter the rest day with a loss, and so maybe we would get some Armageddon, because then if you lose in Armageddon, at least you get some points on the board. But what ended up happening was we had 5 decisive results in Classical, and only 1 game went to Armageddon, so a lot of players went to the rest day not with the best feelings. You don't want that for anybody, but you also are happy for the victorious ones. So anyway, we'll see if we get a repeating of that, how wild that would be to get so many decisive results in Classical.
I think that would be amazing. And yeah, we predicted the exact opposite before the previous day off. So let's see if we can be proven wrong again. I really liked, by the way, earlier had a camera when Magnus was sitting back. The Norwaychess logo was right above him, so it looked like he was wearing a crown. The crown has moved since, but the world #1 is here to stay on that world #1 spot, which actually was in a bit of a question a few days ago. He's holding on to that spot, but the ranking could have been shaken up if he had lost the other day.
Yeah, that's right. And it all kind of came to a fore after Pragg beat Magnus last time. The gap had narrowed. We were talking about how the gap could have been closed down to 4 points on the rating list. Magnus has extended that back to, what is it, almost 30 points. So, yeah, fascinating storylines. Also fascinating openings, Danny. Some surprises early on in this round.
Yeah, I agree. We've got the Verisov there in the lower left corner from Vaishali. I don't know if that's one of the ones you had your eye on right there, but that's a fun one. A very aggressive weapon, potentially, when you put the knight in front of the queen's pawn. Not the traditional or positionally wise thing to do, according to classical theories of chess, but it's a very aggressive one. So we'll keep an eye on Vaishali going for a win to get herself back in it and slow down the tournament leader. But yeah, plenty of other ones too. Lei Jie's game versus Humpy Canero, also a unique one. Was that an Evans Gambit with Firouzja and Nakamura? No, it was an Italian with C3 and B4. For a second, I thought I saw a declined Evans Gambit with B4 and the bishop went back to E7. That was not the case.
It was not the case.
Okay, that would have been fun.
It looks like a twist on it. We see an open Spanish between Magnus Carlsen and Praggnanandhaa. Magnus hasn't had a great track record against the open Spanish, so interesting choice there. 1d6 from Caruana. It looks like that might soon transpose to a King's Indian. It feels like provocation on several of the boards. Yeah, Fabi asking Ding to come at him. Likewise, Nakamura asking Firouzja to play some really ambitious stuff.
And Firouzja is obliging. He's expanding the queen side, playing queen to b3 early. Look at this, bishop f5. Okay, now Fabi really is mixing it up. This is not your everyday line to bring the bishop out to f5 rather than go to a traditional King's Indian. So, and look at that, Ding Liren is ready. He plays queen to b3. Fun stuff happening there between the world champion and the former world #2, now world #3, Fabiano Caruana, Anna.
Yeah, I'm loving it. And I'm loving that even though this must have come as a surprise to Ding Liren, he's confidently responding with quick and good moves. That's great to see because he must have been surprised in this opening. You don't expect Fabiano go for it.
Agreed. By the way, speaking of surprises, and we talked about it when Magnus was in studio, but we never really got to unpack. Were we surprised by how much Magnus acknowledged that he cared about the world #1? I guess not really. And he said, as long as I'm doing this, I want to be #1. And he gave an interview to me last year and said something similar, which is basically made a comment that he would be honest with himself if he ever entered a tournament where he didn't think he was the favorite. And then he said, today is not that day. It was an epic line, and I think Magnus wants to feel that way whenever he walks in. So I guess, David, I never had a chance to ask you. I mean, you know him so well. That loss to Prague obviously stung. He did ultimately get the padding back. But are you surprised by his drive to hold on to that #1 spot after all these years?
I mean, I'm always surprised by it. I'm always impressed by it. I think it goes in phases, Danny. I think Magnus nowadays, enjoyment of chess is just as important for him as that #1 ranking. But ultimately, we're all quite... chess players are proud, and we're all quite protective of what we've achieved in the game. And Magnus, that's what keeps him going. That's something that I think maybe helped him long-term in this tournament, that wake-up call against Prague in the first half. And it definitely seems to have perked him up, got him back in the zone. Also, I'll just mention, I was getting a bit of deja vu on one of the boards. Firouzja against Nakamura, interesting storyline. This is the exact position they had at the Candidates tournament in Toronto just a couple of months ago. So
No way. We're going to need to check who will deviate from their game from just months ago. That is a great observation, David.
it was Firouzja, just by castling kingside on the last move, has switched things up slightly.
Okay.
Can they still transpose? Did he castle a bit later in that game?
He castled a lot later, down on move 17 in that game, castling on move 9 for white here instead.
Could you show that game real quick, just for a few moves to compare?
Let's do that. Let's jump in. Queen A2. The player's clearly done their preparation. Lightning striking twice is rare at this top level. We'll do a quick backtrack, actually, for everyone at home. This was the Italian game, a bit of a funky version, I'm going to say. Pawn to D3. H6 is a very trendy move, often hinting that black wants to expand very quickly on the king side. This has come into sharp focus at the top level in recent years. Pawn to C3. Bishop C5. This is what we talked about, provocation. Hikaru maybe wanting to ask Firouzja to come at him. Nakamura was the one to win that game in the Candidates. White obliges, plays b4, gaining time against the black bishop, which retreats. So white has basically won a move for free, pawn to b4. White backs that up by hitting the f7 pawn, forcing black to castle. And if we fast forward in this position, Firouzja played knight d2 in Toronto. And in that, some really fascinating early play. Nakamura copied his strategy in this game. He played the move knight to b8. Looks really odd for viewers at home wondering why black has mouse-slipped or undeveloped his piece here. It's simply because the knight was in the way. He needs to push a pawn to c6 in order to get the d5 break to strike in the center, while white is still uncastled. The white bishop a bit trapped. So instead, Firouzja, actually in that game, I'll just mention, he played the move d4 and later swung his bishop back via f1 to fianchetto it. It was a really weird, wonderful game that Nakamura came out on top in. But castles looks more traditional here. And after queen to a2, at least the white bishop has a retreat square. I wonder who's done their homework better. That's the big question.
Very big question here. So you're saying queen to a2 in order to have the b3 square for the bishop. Was there anything immediate about the bishop, or is just that that was going to be a useful move anyway, and you're not showing your hand, you're not showing how you're going to place the rest of your pieces yet?
Yeah, I think it's the latter there, Anna, just really flexible. And Hikaru now strikes out with a5, asking a question on the queen side. Ultimately, Danny here, it's really, really tense, but that shapes up nicely.
It shapes up nicely for a fight, which is what we want, is what the fans came to see, right? We want these guys to give us fire on board, and they often do. Firouzja and Hikaru, often it's fire on computer screen because they play so many games online. But really great breakdown there, David. I just want to say this is a line that to me is representative of where we've come in modern chess with computer prep, because if you just look at black's pieces, the queen side completely undeveloped, and black voluntarily put the knight back on b8 to undevelop it, right? And classical chess wisdom would be that white's space and white's extra moves, if you will, have to amount to something. But the reality is, without a lot of concrete targets or weaknesses, there's plenty of time to maneuver your way back in. And often, as they say, you already said, Hikaru said it once, he says, come get me, right? When you say kind of, come get me, big guy, right? You put yourself in a spot to then have things to poke at and to attack. And that's exactly what a counter strike like a5 is all about. And so, anyway, it's just fun to see that the understanding we have about the game versus just space, just control over the center, just development, are important factors, but they are actually only as important in some cases and when it comes to what you can attack, right? And this is a fun one because you just see it. No one would have done this 50 years ago. They would have been like, what in the, like, they would have been ran out of the tournament hall, right? And now it's like, yeah, I'm voluntarily underdeveloping so that I have something to attack when you overexpand your queenside pawn. So, by the way, Hikaru gets up. Is he about to over-expand on his thought process for us in the confessional booth for the first time today? Our fourth commentator on site downstairs, Mr. Nakamura, might be giving us content in just a few moments. But let's back this thing up. Take a look from 30,000 feet, the bird's eye view of, well, actually, no, let's do a, okay. I want to actually throw to the storyline we've already talked about. Let's talk about how many times Hikaru has been to the confessional booth because it's the content we're all craving and laughing and enjoying. But we did a tally and actually put the numbers to it. What do the stats say? Hikaru is basically beating the entire field when it
obsessed with with Marvel, but yeah, this is incredible. Hikaru really aware of the fans. We talked about it in the past, just talking through his own thought process. It can be healthy. It can help him come to these logical conclusions, keeps him in a nice chilled out mindset, and it's really helped his results. We're hoping for some of the other players to start increasing their number of appearances.
We hope so. And I think it was a great point when Hikaru mentioned that, yeah, him and Magnus, of course, they are like more, obviously, they are more used to the media attention and they understand the importance of a feature like a confessional booth. But that Prague is going, that is a great sign that the next generation, the future generation of chess, he actually already is the generation, he's the present of chess as well, but that they will be here the next 5, 10, 15 years, so that they are going, that is a great sign for what's to come. But also, sorry that I got distracted earlier, I heard an applause, and does that mean that our Guinness World Record, the old record, is beaten? That they crossed the line, the time that they needed?
I think so. I don't know if we can throw down to that and check in, or if we should head back to the bird's eye view and go around the horn. We have really only looked at the game between Firouzja and Nakamura, but we will get an update for you either way. For now, let's go back to the bird's eye view. No, we got it. Okay, no, they've broken the record. Yes, 56 hours has been broken. So it still says the current record is 60 hours, and I believe that's because there's a record that is not officially on record yet from Tunde, who did this at Times Square, but I don't actually know the status of that or where that sits. So no, maybe that applause was for something totally different. Maybe it was applauding that guy's form as he goes to work on Udin's back, and they're just applauding the technique there, really digging in on that stress and tension. Okay, let's back up.
Deep tissue massage.
Deep tissue massage. Let's go to the bird's eye view and see where we're at. David, what other game you got your eye on right now?
I mean, there's so much happening across all the boards. Yesterday was a bit of a slow start, but the players really bringing their A game today. We see on camera Magnus Carlsen against Prag there. That's still a very theoretical open Spanish. We'll update people there, I think, as soon as there are some new moves and some direct tension, some big threats. The game between Ding Liren against Fabiano Caruana, talking about undeveloping pieces. Black's lost 2 tempi with his bishop. White's gained all the space in the world. This is maybe the most provocative opening I've seen in a long time at the top level. I recommend we go there. But also some interesting openings in the women's, in Norway women's chess. So let's start with Ding Liren Caruana, I feel.
I think that's a great choice, and it's a very bold opening choice by Fabiano, who clearly wants to take a chance. He's going risky and bold because he wants to get that 3-point classical win, even if he has the black pieces against the reigning world champion. Ding Liren's form has been, unfortunately, the sign that the rest of the field needed, that there's a target on his back and everyone wants to try to beat him with either color.
I agree, but in this case, if Fabiano is playing one of those must-win openings that usually reserved for online blitz chess, David. I mean, just being honest, this is a terrible opening for Black. Like, this is a horrible position. And, like, if Dingli Ren can just find the energy, now would be the time. We applauded the idea that he might go for a win yesterday as Black. Against Praggnanandhaa in Classical, he had an advantage, and we felt he had all the cards, but offered a draw the moment they reached move 30, which for those who don't understand the reference, move 30 is when you are legally allowed to offer a draw in the format. There are no draw offers